Iris was getting ready for work, preparing to clean an apartment. She didn't know the person who lived there would be home, let alone that he'd ask her to join him and his old school friends for a get-together. Little did Iris know, there was more to this invitation than just a friendly gathering. It turned out to be full of unexpected surprises and secrets. Iris was a determined young woman who found a special way to help her family. She worked hard cleaning houses, mostly getting new clients from happy customers who told their friends about her. Iris had faced challenges early on, like becoming a mom when she was young, which caused problems with her parents. But with her daughter Camille by her side, Iris felt inspired to make things better. When Camille was just 6 months old, Iris decided to take charge of her life. Since it was tough to find a regular job while taking care of her daughter, Iris started cleaning houses instead. She quickly got more clients because she did great work and was always dedicated. The best part was that cleaning gave Iris the flexibility to take care of Camille while still earning a living and making a good life for them both. Another day started, and Iris got ready for another round of tough work. Today, she was set to clean an apartment. It was her first time working there. Usually, her clients trusted her so much they'd let her in or leave the key for her. They were all super busy, often busy with work all day. So Iris hardly ever got to meet her clients face to face. But because they trusted her so much, she could work quietly, keeping their places clean and tidy while they stayed busy with their schedules. Iris started her day by checking on her adorable 4-year-old daughter, Camille, before getting ready for work. The plan was to take Camille to school and then head to the apartment for her cleaning job. But there was a problem. Camille wasn't feeling well. She had a fever and was coughing now and then. Luckily, Iris had medicine ready for situations like this. It was obvious that Camille wouldn't be able to go to school that day. But Iris, being both a loving mom and a dedicated worker, couldn't ignore her duties for the day. She took special care of Camille, giving her the medicine she needed to feel better. Then, faced with a tough choice, Iris made a decision. In this unusual situation, she chose to bring Camille with her to work. It was something she hadn't done before, but under the circumstances, it was the only way to make sure she fulfilled her promise to her client. When Iris reached the apartment, she realized the key wasn't where it was supposed to be, so she rang the doorbell instead. Much to her surprise, a friendly young man answered the door. "You must be Iris," he said with a smile. "I'm Nathan. I had to work from home today, but go ahead with the cleaning as planned." "Good morning, Mr. Nathan. I didn't think you'd be home. I hope it's okay, but I had to bring my daughter with me. I promise she won't be a bother," Iris apologized, feeling a bit awkward. Nathan, with a friendly smile, responded, "Oh, please just call me Nathan, and don't worry about your daughter. Feel free to put on a movie for her on the TV if you'd like." Nathan's kindness and understanding really impressed Iris. She made sure to work quietly and carefully that morning, knowing Nathan was busy with his own tasks. As lunchtime approached and Iris was still cleaning, Nathan emerged from his room. "Iris, I'm about to have lunch. Would you and your daughter like to join me?" he offered. Iris was surprised by the kindness Nathan showed her, but she didn't want to overstay her welcome. After all, he had already been so understanding about her daughter being there. "Thank you very much, Nathan," she said gratefully, "but I'm almost finished, and then I need to get home so my daughter can rest." Nathan insisted, smiling. "I've already told you, no need for Mr. I'm not that old." "Okay then. I hope your daughter feels better soon. Thanks for your hard work, and here's your payment." Meeting Nathan had a big impact on Iris. She was used to clients who kept their distance, so Nathan treating her with kindness and equality really touched her. This meant a lot, especially considering the challenges she had faced in life. Before Iris met Nathan, she had crossed paths with Camille's father, Victor, at a party. She was young and out to have a good time with her friends. Victor, a bit older and charming, caught Iris's eye. They spent some time together, but Victor never wanted anything serious. While Iris was falling for him, Victor kept his distance and avoided getting involved with her family. He never introduced Iris to his family, and when he learned about the pregnancy, he disappeared without a word. With little information about him, Iris found herself alone, facing the unexpected pregnancy in an uncertain future. Despite initial conflict with her parents about Camille's pregnancy, Iris had their support throughout. When Camille was born, family and friends came together, providing clothes and diapers for the baby. This show of solidarity helped Iris through a tough time with the support of her family and friends. She gradually found her strength and worked towards a better future for herself and her daughter. Although she faced challenges, Iris had to set aside her dream of becoming a nurse. Motherhood and supporting her daughter left her with no time or resources to pursue her studies. It had been a week since Iris last cleaned Nathan's apartment, the friendly customer who had pleasantly surprised her with his kindness. Then, she got a message from him asking for another cleaning the next day. This time, the keys were right where they were supposed to be, which oddly left Iris feeling a bit disappointed. Maybe, deep down, she hoped to see that young man again. As Iris entered the apartment, she quickly noticed a surprise waiting for her. A neatly wrapped gift sat on the table, accompanied by a note that read, "Iris, this is for your daughter. I hope she enjoys it." After completing the cleaning, Iris headed to pick up her daughter from school, clutching the gift tightly. When Camille received it, her eyes lit up with joy, warming Iris's heart. Nathan's simple gesture of kindness made Iris think about how different things could have been if Camille had a loving father like him, instead of Victor's absence. The next week, Iris went to clean Nathan's apartment once more, and to her surprise, he was home this time. He greeted her with a warm smile as he opened the door. "Hey, Iris, I'm working from home today, so no worries about interrupting," he said. Iris smiled back. "Oh, you're not bothering at all. This is your place after all." Throughout the day, as Iris cleaned, she and Nathan chatted like old friends. They talked about everyday things, shared stories and experiences, creating a genuine sense of friendship. When Iris finished, she said goodbye, thanking Nathan once again for the gift he had given to her daughter. Over the next few weeks, Iris continued her weekly cleaning visits to Nathan's home. Sometimes he was there, other times he wasn't. Nathan, being a bit older and a lawyer, would occasionally talk about his work cases, while Iris shared bits of her own life story. One day, as she worked, Nathan mentioned he had a meeting planned with his old high school buddies. He confessed he wasn't really looking forward to it, but felt obligated to go since it had been a while since they last met. What caught Iris off guard was what he said next. "In high school, I used to joke about never settling down or having kids. I was the designated bachelor of the group," Nathan explained, reminiscing. "Wouldn't it be a laugh if I showed up there married?" Suddenly struck by an idea, Nathan turned to Iris. "Hey, Iris, would you be up for going with me to this meetup, pretending to be my wife?" Though the request caught her off guard, Iris saw the potential for some fun. With Nathan arranging a babysitter for Camille, they both dressed up and headed to the gathering. Iris couldn't remember the last time she had dolled up and put on so much makeup. Having a break from her usual routine felt like a breath of fresh air. When they arrived at the meetup spot, Iris felt Nathan's hand in hers, and he said with a playful grin, "If we're going to play the part, we might as well do it right." It was a lighthearted moment that made her smile as they walked in holding hands. Nathan's friends were genuinely surprised when he introduced Iris as his wife. They teased her, jokingly asking how she managed to tie down the confirmed bachelor. The evening had a relaxed and enjoyable vibe, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. As the night wore on, it became harder to tell if Iris and Nathan were just putting on an act or if there was something more between them. They continued to hold hands, sharing meaningful glances and enjoying lively conversations with Nathan's friends. The boundary between play acting and reality seemed to blur, fostering a genuine sense of closeness between them. The relaxed atmosphere took a sudden turn when Nathan's late friend arrived. Iris's expression turned pale instantly. She gripped Nathan's arm, her voice filled with concern. "Remember when I told you about Camille's father disappearing?" "That's him," she whispered urgently. Nathan's eyes widened as he followed her gaze. "But that's my old friend Victor," he exclaimed. "He's the one who left you?" Iris asked, disbelief in her voice. Nathan didn't hesitate to leave, and Iris readily agreed. As they made their way out, they ran into Victor. Seeing Nathan with Iris, Victor recognized her despite the years that had passed. In a disrespectful tone, he sneered, "Hey, Nathan. What's with you and this gold digger? Looks like she finally found someone to scam." Knowing Iris and her character, Nathan firmly defended her. "Victor, you'd have no right to insult Iris. She's hardworking and honest. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're leaving." With that, he walked away with Iris, leaving behind Victor's hurtful words. Nathan's protective stance strengthened their bond, showing his loyalty to Iris as a friend. Once they were in the car, emotions were more in check. Iris thanked Nathan for standing by her side during that tough moment. Victor has shown his true colors as a complete scoundrel who needs to face up to his responsibilities. I can assist you in making him acknowledge Camille as his daughter, Nathan offered. But Iris's response caught him off guard. I've often wondered what it would be like if Victor had stayed with me and been a father to Camille. But today, I realized I don't want that man in my life, let alone in my daughter's life. I've been working hard and managing to take care of her without his help. She doesn't need a father who rejected her. Nathan gazed at Iris with admiration and asked, "And what about me, Iris? Do you want me in your life?" "Yes, Nathan. I want you to be a part of my life," Iris replied, her smile radiant. Their lips met in a sweet, passionate kiss, marking the start of a new chapter for them. Their bond deepened as their relationship blossomed, and Nathan felt he had found someone to build a future with. Camille, Iris's daughter, grew to love him too, and their family bond grew stronger. Eventually, Iris and Nathan decided to marry, a moment of joy and fulfillment. It also meant Iris could pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. The tale of Iris, Nathan, and Camille carries a poignant message about leaving the past, embodied by Victor, behind. At times, those who should stand beside us fail to meet their obligations, causing hurt and disillusionment. Yet, it's crucial to understand that we aren't defined by the actions of those who've wronged us. Iris refused to let Victor's absence shape her and her daughter's future. Instead, she focused on crafting a nurturing and fulfilling life for Camille, with Nathan's unwavering support. If you enjoyed the story, please show your appreciation by liking and subscribing to the channel. Share your feedback by commenting with a number from 1 to 5 to indicate your level of satisfaction. Also, check out the video currently displayed on your screen. Until next time.
A huge renovation for elder care? $30,000? What's going on? Wait, isn't that my wife's parents' house? Then, I get this strange call from someone claiming to be my estranged sister-in-law's husband. Something doesn't add up here. It seems like my sister-in-law might be plotting something. Hi, I'm Martha, a 56-year-old stay-at-home wife. My kids are grown and out of the house now, so it's just me, my husband, and my in-laws living together. Thankfully, I have a good relationship with them, which is nice since I lost my own parents when I was young. With the kids gone, my husband and I are finally enjoying some freedom from parenting duties. When my husband and I tied the knot, we knew we'd eventually share a home with his parents. However, my mother-in-law, who had a rough time with her own mother-in-law, had her house turned into a two-family home for us. Even though we live under the same roof, we each have our own space, which has probably helped our relationship flourish. While my husband is at work during the day, I'd often hang out with my in-laws. One day, while my father-in-law was busy with farm chores, I was fixing lunch in the kitchen, planning for us to enjoy it outside. Suddenly, a call came from one of my father-in-law's farming buddies, informing us that he had fallen and broken a bone. He had already been rushed to the family doctor in a pickup truck. My mother-in-law and I abandoned the food and hurried to the hospital. When we got there, emergency surgery was in progress. Despite seeming healthy, my father-in-law was in his 80s, so bouncing back from a fracture wouldn't be easy. The doctors warned us to brace for the worst, possibly even needing a wheelchair. So that's what they meant. As long as he pulls through, that's all that matters. I'll be there to support him, I vowed. We sat anxiously, hearts heavy with prayers, as the surgery dragged on. By the time my husband finished work and joined us, the surgery was over, and we breathed a collective sigh of relief seeing my father-in-law peacefully sleeping in his hospital room, free of any major complications. We decided to rally around him together from then on. But our hopes were dashed when, just a month later, my father-in-law passed away suddenly. His age had left him vulnerable, and he succumbed to an infection that took hold after the surgery. With many of his friends and family also elderly, we hesitated to burden them with news of the wake and funeral. After much discussion, we settled on a private family funeral. Yet even in death, There were unresolved tensions. What about my sister-in-law? I raised the question to my mother-in-law and husband, both wearing expressions of disapproval, likely remembering her troubled marriage, which they had vehemently opposed. While my husband didn't share their strong opposition, he couldn't fully embrace the idea either. This created a strain, causing their relationship with their daughter to become distant. Still, she was their flesh and blood. Shouldn't she have the chance to bid her final farewell? Eventually, they relented, agreeing that if we could reach her, she could attend. But our attempts to contact her proved futile, and the funeral proceeded without her presence. It's just the way things are with her. It's fate. Don't dwell on it, Martha. My mother-in-law comforted me, gently patting my shoulder as we made our way home from the crematorium with my father-in-law's ashes. His sudden passing left us all reeling, without any mental preparation for the funeral and cremation process. As we clasped his ashes and lit incense, the days that followed were filled with a sense of emptiness. It's easier when my husband is here. We can lean on each other. But when he's at work, the silence becomes unbearable. So I find solace in my mother-in-law's company. I know she's enduring even greater pain and sorrow than I am. After all, she lost the husband she'd been with for so many years in the blink of an eye. Even if it's just a facade, I make an effort to maintain a cheerful demeanor around her, I admitted. But my mother-in-law surprised me with her pragmatism. I had planned to keep things this way until the 49th day. However, yes, we can go through his belongings later. But I'm already over 80. You look remarkably young for your age, mother-in-law. Rarely ill, she'd often mention her only hospitalization being childbirth, indicating her robust health. Essentially, she assured us not to worry about her. You're very kind, Martha. But while I'm still mobile, I'd like to organize our things, including his, she insisted. I understand the sentiment of wanting to preserve important memories, like your father-in-law's belongings. Just let me know if you need assistance, I offered. She promptly asked for help retrieving items out of her reach. As we sifted through old photos of my father-in-law, she fondly recalled their youth, sharing tales of their adventures. I listened attentively, nodding along. When the phone rang, my mother-in-law, who didn't own a smartphone, relied on the landline for communication. I wonder who that could be. Only a few close friends knew our situation, and I thought they might avoid calling once they knew. But it might be urgent. I'll answer it. Considering her difficulty in moving, I decided to answer the phone myself rather than inconvenience her. I quickly reached for the receiver near the entrance, greeted by a polite voice I didn't recognize, introducing himself as my sister-in-law's husband. However, I had never crossed paths with him before, leaving me uncertain if he truly was who he claimed to be. As I listened, pondering if this was a new scam targeting the elderly, he broached the topic. I want to discuss the home renovation for caregiving. My father-in-law had already passed away, so why mention caregiving renovations now? Could he have mistaken my mother-in-law's situation? But she wasn't in need of such extensive care. Excuse me? Are you certain you've dialed the right number? This is my wife's family home, isn't it? The man, supposedly my sister-in-law's husband, referenced her maiden name, which indeed matched my husband's family. There was no mistaking this as their residence. Furthermore, his mention of my sister-in-law's name confirmed his authenticity. Yes, the person you mentioned is indeed my husband's sister. Thank you for your understanding. Given the difficulties our family has faced due to our troubled marriage, I feared I had made a negative impression once again. Although I wasn't privy to why my in-laws vehemently opposed my sister-in-law's marriage, this man didn't give off any negative vibes. On the contrary, he appeared genuinely humble and sincere. According to him, he had heard about the estimated $30,000 needed for caregiving renovations and was determined to make amends for the trouble he had caused. He assured us he intended to fulfill the payment, but needed an extension due to difficulty in gathering the funds by the deadline. It's awkward to have him explain everything before divulging this, but his earnestness made me falter. Thank you for your courtesy. Regarding the extension, please give me a moment. When did you learn about the caregiving renovation? My father-in-law was in good health and actively engaged in agriculture until recently. Ah, so there was no need for caregiving renovations at all. Past tense. Yes, my father-in-law passed away. We just concluded his funeral and cremation. I understand. I could almost sense his panic on the other end of the line. He must have been bewildered by the disparity between what his wife had relayed and the truth I presented. It simply didn't add up for him. Gradually, he confessed to having caused considerable distress to my in-laws. When he married into the family, he believed his wife's assertion that her father required care, and he aimed to offer financial aid as a gesture of apology for the inconvenience he had caused. He recounted this to me, seemingly sincere in his intentions. I probed how the notion of my father-in-law needing care had arisen. It emerged a few years back. Initially, he appeared to send a fixed sum each month to contribute to caregiving expenses. However, it became apparent that neither my father-in-law nor mother-in-law were aware of such arrangements. Had they known, my mother-in-law would have surely invited him to the funeral. He claimed her mother had expressed gratitude and that it had been helpful, leading me to believe I was gradually being forgiven. If you were truly forgiven, wouldn't she communicate with you? That's a valid point. Moreover, the amount of money sent annually seemed to be increasing. He'd have been sending more each month, assuming we had requested additional support, a request we had no memory of making. So none of this money reached you? As I confirmed, I sensed his growing frustration. It was challenging for me to articulate while also absorbing the information. I speculated that perhaps my sister-in-law. Well, I couldn't outright say you're being deceived. But he interjected, "You don't need to tiptoe around it. I'm being deceived, aren't I?" Unable to confirm or deny, I remained silent. He likely interpreted my silence as confirmation. Seeking guidance on how to proceed if indeed being deceived, he turned to me. While it wasn't my place to advise, I couldn't bear to abandon my sister-in-law, my husband's sibling. Despite our estrangement, I assured him we would discuss the matter and get back to him later. And with that, our conversation concluded for the day. Upon returning to my mother-in-law, she remarked, "That was quite the lengthy call. Was it one of those persistent salespeople? You know, you should just hang up on them." She assumed it was a pushy sales call. No, it was someone claiming to be my sister-in-law's husband. I replied, sharing the details of the conversation with her. Anger simmered beneath her calm facade as she listened, erupting further upon hearing the entirety of it. What kind of person is she, using her father as an excuse to extort money from her husband? My mother-in-law's hands trembled with fury. It wasn't the first time my sister-in-law had displayed financial irresponsibility, often splurging on luxury items she couldn't afford with her allowance or part-time job earnings. Her behavior seemed suspicious. When she decided to marry, her partner was a man of considerable wealth, which led her parents to vehemently oppose the union. Their opposition wasn't for the sake of my sister-in-law, but rather for her partner's well-being. We then agreed to wait at the culprit's residence with her husband for her eventual return. It had been so long since I last laid eyes on my sister-in-law. When she first introduced her then boyfriend, now husband, to her parents and brother with marriage intentions, there was quite a stir. However, as I wasn't yet formally part of the family, I wasn't present for the commotion. Hence, this would mark my initial encounter with my sister-in-law's spouse. As I had sensed during our phone conversation, he appeared genuinely sincere with a pleasant demeanor. Despite rumors of his substantial income, he didn't seem to lead an extravagant lifestyle. Instead, he appeared to opt for a more modest existence. However, if one of the reasons behind this modesty stemmed from my sister-in-law's deceit, it undoubtedly evoked a complex mix of emotions. Meeting my sister-in-law again after many years, her unexpected encounter with her mother at home left her visibly stunned, her eyes widening in disbelief as she stood frozen in place. The image I had of my sister-in-law was one of someone with a penchant for flashy things. However, the woman before me now appeared excessively ostentatious, lacking any sense of refinement, which was somewhat disheartening to witness. The three of us had agreed beforehand to play along with my sister-in-law's charade. Initially, we opted not to address her deceit directly. It's been quite some time. "I'm glad to see you're doing well," I greeted her with warmth. Caught off guard by the unexpected kindness, my sister-in-law stuttered in response to her mother, perhaps fearing her lies had been exposed, and she would face reprimand. "I've been wanting to see you again after all these years. How have you been?" We chose not to divulge the truth about her father's passing and upheld the pretense that he was still alive. I offered my apologies for not keeping in touch and exchanged pleasantries accordingly. Humbly, my sister-in-law expressed relief that her mother seemed healthy and admitted to worrying about her. However, conspicuously absent from her remarks was any mention of her father. We were keen to avoid any discussion that might inadvertently reveal the truth about her father's condition or the issue of caregiving expenses. It appeared that my husband and she had crossed paths before, yet her deception remained undetected. Perhaps she believed she could continue her charade without consequence. "Your mom seems pleased. It looks like you two are doing well together," remarked my mother-in-law. She was hopeful that her daughter would mend her ways and gradually start supporting her husband. The strategy was to shower her with praise in the hopes of prompting a change of heart. Somehow, my sister-in-law went a step too far, assuring my mother-in-law that she would provide caregiving support if needed and even insisted not to worry about finances. It's astonishing she could make such promises in front of her husband, who had been supporting her with good intentions. My heart went out to him as he listened to it all, I lamented. Expressing our gratitude, we took our leave that day. Judging from her actions, it seemed probable that my sister-in-law had been diverting the money she requested for her own use. Uncertain of where the hefty sum of $30,000 had disappeared to, we opted to hire a private investigator to delve into her financial affairs. The monthly caregiving funds, totaling several $1,000s, were evidently being redirected for her personal benefit. However, what unfolded was a shocking revelation. She was deeply entangled with a favorite club host, lavishing him with financial support in a bid to elevate his status. Her extravagant spending included purchasing costly bottles and accumulating debts she couldn't settle each month. As the host faced mounting pressure to settle his unpaid bills, amounting to $30,000, my sister-in-law's husband was incensed, realizing he could no longer turn a blind eye. He meticulously orchestrated his plans while she was away on a trip with her preferred host, oblivious to the unfolding events. Upon returning home a few days later, she was met with a stark reality. Her house was devoid of furniture or personal belongings, leaving her in a state of panic. Frantically attempting to reach her husband to no avail, she eventually contacted me in distress. Initially hysterical, she immediately quieted down when I nonchalantly inquired about her trip with the club host. Unable to question how I was aware of her actions without admitting guilt, she found herself at a loss for words. Now it was my turn to confront her, leaving no room for rebuttal. "Your deception hasn't gone unnoticed. You've betrayed not only your mother and husband, but also shattered any trust others may have had in you. Furthermore, the father-in-law you exploited as an excuse has passed away. It wasn't entirely her fault for being unaware of her father's passing, but using his supposed care as a pretext to solicit money was unquestionably wrong. I made it clear that her ex-husband was also privy to the truth, and upon realizing she had been abandoned, she erupted into a fit of screams over the phone, resembling a person unhinged. Refusing to engage with her ex-husband, and unwilling to burden my elderly mother-in-law further, I volunteered to act as an intermediary with my sister-in-law. Despite her continued protests over the phone, she evoked pity in a way, oblivious to her father's demise and exploiting him as a means to an end. Though she might harbor regrets, it was too late for remorse. I delivered one final message to her. Your ex-husband intends to demand full repayment for the money you squandered on the host. You'll need to find a way to settle the $30,000 debt on your own. Subsequently, she received legal documents from a lawyer, Despite her request to speak with her husband, he remained resolute, unable to stomach any interaction with his ex-wife, even for legal proceedings. With no room for negotiation, my sister-in-law was left to eke out a modest living while grappling with the weight of her debts. Naturally timid, she lived in perpetual fear of the lawyer's notices and the unwelcome visits from debt collectors. As for us, we resumed our ordinary lives. While it took some time to sift through my father-in-law's belongings, we resolved to move forward as a family, including his share. Recently, my mother-in-law has begun showing signs of decline, hinting that the day she'll require care may be nearing. Since we couldn't do much for my father-in-law, my husband, and I pledged to do our utmost for my mother-in-law.
I'm living with an elderly lady. Isn't it obvious I should help out? This is just a penalty game, a bit of fun. There's no need to make a big deal out of it, right? So that's your attitude. I see. If you both feel that way, I have my own plans too. My name is Naomi. I'm currently living alone in the city, far from my childhood home. It takes about an hour by car to get there, which makes frequent visits difficult. I manage to go back maybe once a year. Last New Year, for example, I was too busy with work to make the trip. But this year, I was able to make the journey home. I was looking forward to seeing my brother and his wife, who got married 2 years ago, and now live with mother in our family home. I bought the souvenirs they requested and drove back home, excited for what I was sure would be a fun holiday season. But then, what was going on here? When I got home, something felt off. Even from outside, the atmosphere seemed stagnant. It was as dark as a house that had been abandoned for years. When I walked in, the air felt even heavier. I noticed that mother lacked her usual energy. She had always been such a cheerful and lively person. Looking at the three of them, it seemed that mother was doing all the cleaning and cooking. "Mother, are you okay? Can I help?" I asked. "It's all right, Naomi. You've come home after so long. You must be tired from the long drive," she replied, not letting me assist her. Yet she was doing strenuous housework like lifting heavy items. Despite this, my brother and Lily, my sister-in-law, just ignored her. Even when Mom was working right in front of them, they continued playing their games. They even asked her to bring them tea while she was working. It was total madness. "Hey, Mom, are you really okay? Should I talk to my brother for you? Maybe there are things you're having trouble saying." "It's fine, really. You don't have to worry about anything. Just relax. You're home, after all. Your bed is ready in the guest room. You could even take a nap if you want," she insisted. No matter how much I asked, Mom wouldn't tell me anything. I thought there was nothing I could do until mealtime came as a surprise. The living room was filled with Mom's special dishes, including many of my favorites. Each dish had a nostalgic taste, lifting my spirits instantly. "Wow, thank you. I've missed Mom's home cooking so much." "Wait, what?" Mom was nowhere to be found in the living room. Incredibly, she wasn't coming in from the kitchen. "Mom, what's wrong? Aren't you coming in? If there's still something to prepare, I can help you." Puzzled, I went to check in the kitchen, and there was Mom, eating standing up. No chair, just eating alone in the cold kitchen. "Mom, why aren't you joining us? Why are you eating here?" "This is how it always is, so it's fine. But I made plenty, so make sure to eat. I'd like to think my cooking hasn't gone downhill," she said, looking sad. Meanwhile, in the living room, my brother and his wife were eating without a care for Mom, watching TV and chatting away. I couldn't help but feel bewildered. "Hey, what's going on, bro? Sister-in-law, why is Mom eating in the kitchen? Doesn't that strike you as strange?" "Well, Mom has her issues too. You wouldn't understand because you don't live with us," my brother replied nonchalantly. "Exactly," my sister-in-law added. "As you age, your knees start to hurt, and sitting can become painful. You probably wouldn't know unless you live with her. Sometimes it's easier for her to stand. Sitting can make it worse." They responded as if this were the most natural thing in the world. I found their attitude odd, but I couldn't find the words to object. Indeed, it's been 2 years since I last saw Mom. We haven't been in touch often, so there could be circumstances I'm not aware of. So, I backed off at that moment. But as I observed more closely over time, I realized something was off with Mom. To be precise, something was off between my brother, his wife, and Mom. They didn't try to engage Mom in conversation. They acted as if she wasn't there at all. It was as though only I could see her. Then again, my brother and his wife have only been married for 2 years. They've been living with mom since their newlywed days, so they probably haven't had much alone time. Maybe they're still in that lovey-dovey honeymoon phase and want to stay absorbed in their own little world. That could be one way to look at it. And it's not like I, who isn't usually around, can dictate how often they should be conversing with mom. With those unsettling thoughts swirling in my mind, I retired to bed that night. However, the real shock came later. In the middle of the night, I woke up needing to use the restroom, only to find mom asleep in the chilly hallway by the front door. Despite being covered with several blankets, she was shivering noticeably in the cold. "Mom, what are you doing out here? Why are you sleeping in the hallway?" I exclaimed. "It's nothing new. Don't worry about me," she replied softly. "No way. I can't just leave you like this. Even though we don't live together normally, I can't ignore it." Despite the late hour, I insisted on taking mom to the guest room where I was staying. Together, we sought warmth and comfort for the rest of the night. The next morning, I confronted my brother and his wife about what had happened without hesitation. "You don't talk to mom. She does all the housework. She's eating standing up in the kitchen. And why was she sleeping in the hallway?" But instead of showing remorse, my brother just grinned. It was my sister-in-law who uttered something shocking. "Well, it's because mom is always causing trouble. It's her punishment, right?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." "Punishment? What do you mean?" "When you accumulate too many nuisance points, there are consequences. At 5 points, meals are eaten in the kitchen. At 10 points, you handle all the chores yourself. At 20 points, you sleep in the hallway. Right now, our dear mother-in-law has racked up a whopping 200 points, so she only has to endure it a few more days." "What does that even mean? Isn't that terrible? And what do you mean by nuisance?" I fired my questions hastily. My sister-in-law responded in a casual tone. "What counts as a nuisance?" "Well, like when the food doesn't taste to our liking. For us, working dual-income earners, that's the worst. It's really disappointing to come home after a long day, looking forward to a good meal, only to find it's not tasty." "What? Just cook your own food then." "Naomi, you don't understand. We're the ones working outside, right? Do you know how much of a hassle it is to cook?" "That's true, Naomi. My mother-in-law doesn't work, so the least she can do is cook. It's really inconvenient to have an unproductive person at home." "Exactly. We're out there working, and she's just at home all day. Quite the life, isn't it?" "Brother, aren't you being a bit harsh? Mother raised us by herself after Dad passed away. She worked and managed all the housework. She took care of us." Isn't that just a parent's duty?" "Yeah, that's it." My brother and his wife burst into laughter. Seeing their reaction, I realized there was no use in arguing further. So, I calmly stated, "I see how you perceive it. Understood. Then I will fulfill my duty as a daughter." With determination, I started packing mother's belongings. Her possessions were noticeably fewer than when I last saw them 2 years ago, which saddened me deeply. Despite my emotions, I held back tears, completed the packing, and assisted mother, who kept apologizing, into my car. My brother and his wife observed with smirks on their faces. "Finally, they're taking the burden away from us. Score. This house is ours now, Kevin. Let's enjoy it from now on," my brother remarked gleefully. I ignored their celebration and drove off with mother, heading home. A few days later, after the New Year's festivities had ended, it was back to work. Then, a frantic call from my brother came through. "Hey, nothing's arrived. What's going on?" "Really? After what you did to mom, did you expect things to go on as usual, little brother? Do you understand your actions?" "What are you talking about? I didn't do anything wrong to you." "True, you did nothing to me. But what about mom? Think about it." With that, I hung up on him. It wasn't long before my sister-in-law called. "What the? I just read your email. Why are you saying you're cutting ties with us? Explain yourself." Explanation. Cutting ties means ending our business relationship. How many years have you been working that you don't understand that? Are you still functioning in society? Wait, that's not what I meant. Don't insult me. Why does our company have to be cut off? Are you seriously asking that? Considering recent events, are you sure you're fit for this professionally? Do you even remember what happened a few days ago? With that, I ended the call. Truth be told, I work at a major company. My brother freelances for us, handling occasional writing tasks. While it felt strange to cut ties with family, there are plenty of other writers available. As for my sister-in-law, her father's company subcontracts with ours and my department oversees their contract. Ending our business relationship with them was a straightforward decision. After handling the calls, I took a deep breath to steady myself. Then I sent both of them the same message. You both mistreated Mom. As her daughter, I will fight to protect her. Anyone who harms Mom is my adversary, and I won't hold back. Despite the circumstances of how you met, my sister-in-law visiting our company and my brother seeking more work from me, did you really think it was acceptable to treat Mom so poorly? I hate to say it, but I've been supporting both of you since you met. That ends today. They both seemed to read the message promptly and replied hastily. I haven't forgotten. I treated you better than any brother would treat his sister. I even prepared the guest room nicely for the New Year's celebration. I couldn't leave that to Mom. I also had Mom-in-law make your favorite dishes. Naomi, are you going to forget that kindness? After reading their messages, I replied, you couldn't leave it to Mom. You had to take charge. How dare you disrespect the woman who raised me with such love? Both of you disgust me. Brace yourselves. Ultimately, I stopped assigning work to my brother. There were plenty of others who were more reliable and efficient than him. Without our family ties influencing my decisions, there was no reason to prioritize him. One day, a colleague who was unaware of my relationship with Kevin asked, Hey Naomi, Kevin Ryder hasn't been active lately, right? Is he not taking on our work anymore? Yeah, he told me he's not interested in our projects anymore and asked me to stop sending them his way. So I guess we can just let him be. Well, that's odd. He doesn't seem to have any notable skills, yet he's straightforward. I wonder how he'll manage without our projects. I see what you mean. He was a bit of an odd character, wasn't he? Exactly. He misses deadlines, acts entitled, and he's overly aggressive in price negotiations. If we don't have to work with him anymore, it's a relief. That's how my brother appears from an outsider's perspective. When I stopped assigning him work, he mentioned that 90% of his income came from our company, so he must be in a tough spot now. With his attitude and skill level, finding new work won't be easy for him. Well, let him struggle. It's of no concern to me. It seems his wife, my sister-in-law, received a serious reprimand from her father after he learned about her treatment of Mom. Her father contacted me in a panic. I will disown my daughter, so please, I beg of you, let's keep our relationship intact. If there are any other conditions, I will accept them. He's the president of a company we subcontract with. I couldn't ignore his plea after hearing that. So, I laid down a condition. In that case, I want your daughter and my brother to vacate our house immediately, and she must sincerely apologize to Mother. Additionally, she needs to provide suitable compensation in the divorce settlement. The president promptly conveyed this to my sister-in-law, but she seemed resistant. Why should I apologize? Living with that old woman is stressful enough. Dad, you need to assert yourself more. You're being pathetic. Given this attitude, I decided not to renew the contract. While I felt sympathy for the president, it felt like karma. Since my brother and his daughter-in-law got married, he had been providing unrealistic estimates. He was tough in negotiations but struggled with deadlines and communication. If he hadn't been family, I would have ended the business relationship much earlier. Moreover, he raised such a daughter-in-law. There was no reason for me to go out of my way to assist him. As a result, my brother and his wife found themselves in a tight spot. According to local acquaintances, they appeared to have moved out of their home at some point. The house originally belonged to our parents, my brother, and me, and it was spacious enough for 4 people or just the 2 of them. Utility bills must have been a burden. According to reports from friends, they were seen in an apartment without basic amenities like a bathroom or toilet. It seemed they were facing significant challenges without steady employment, but that was no longer my concern. Even if they were to suddenly apologize, I had no intention of forgiving them whatsoever. On the other hand, in stark contrast to them, Mom has been steadily regaining her energy. She sleeps in a comfortable bed at my place and enjoys her meals in a cozy environment. She no longer strains herself with household chores and can relax on her days off. After months of this new routine, she's returned to her vibrant self. I was mistaken before. I convinced myself that your brother and his wife were right. I thought I had to comply because I wasn't good enough. Naomi, thank you for rescuing me. No, I should apologize for not realizing it sooner. I'm sorry for letting you suffer, Mom. From now on, please inform me immediately if anything happens. We'll make up for the past by living happily. Lately, Mom has started making friends in the neighborhood. She finds the unfamiliar city exhilarating and loves exploring it. Seeing Mom happy like this brings me immense joy. Moving forward, I'm committed to showing my gratitude to the woman who raised me. That's the